this episode of the Innovative Schools podcast, Joseph Cope is back, and we're talking to him about how to look past challenging behavior and build life skills in students. Come on, let's learn together. Hey educators, Jordan here, Innovative Schools podcast. So glad that you could join us for another episode. Before we get into this episode, just wanted to talk a couple things. One is, you may have seen, we've talked about it a good amount, but maybe not seen, heard, that the Innovative Schools Summit is partnered with us, the Innovative Schools podcast. We're kind of all together. That's how we get the access to all these wonderful experts in education and everything like that. But wanted to make sure you guys knew that over the summer here, as we're nearing kind of the end of this season 3, which is exciting, we have 2 summits coming up, one in Nashville and one in Vegas. We'd love to see you guys there. So hop on over to innovativeschoolsummit.com to check that out and see some of the presenters and stuff that we have. But today, we have an old friend coming back by to join us. He was actually our guest on the very first episode of the Innovative Schools podcast. We have Joseph Cope with us again. Hey, dude, what's up?
Jordan, it's great to be back. Always good to be back.
Yeah, you got the first test run. You know, you were gracious enough to help us out with that first episode and make that a reality. And here we are, season 3. I don't know the episode number, but somewhere deeper in season 3, we said, you know what, we should bring Joseph back and give him another run at it because he was really rough. No, joking. You were great.
No cameras broke. No mirrors are broken. Everything is still intact. There's no burning embers.
Yes, we made it through, and here we are, and I'm excited. I really am excited to have you back with us, for us to kind of loop back to this whole thing. Quick recap on things of who you are, because maybe some people didn't go listen to that first episode. Maybe you should pause and go listen to that one, or check it out after this. But let's see if we can hit some of these highlights. You were in a school for how many years?
Boy, so I was in the classroom for 15 years at 3 different schools.
Yeah. Mostly in Texas, or at least some in Texas.
10 in California, 5 in Texas.
Wow. So you have your classroom experience. Did you do anything at the administration level? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I did, Jordan. So I started my career with 10 years in elementary school in California. And then when my family moved to Texas, I made the big, bold jump into middle school classroom education, where I taught. I was a middle school English teacher. I became an award-winning middle school teacher in West Texas. And then in 2020, I made the jump during COVID into leadership, and I ended up being in leadership for 3 years at 2 separate schools. All of the schools that I have worked at are Title I schools with anywhere between 60 and 90% free and reduced lunch. So educators who are out there who are going, who is this guy? Has he been there? Every TED Talk that you've heard about an educator who's gone through it, I promise we've got stories to match.
Yeah. There is always that concern, I think, of some of our audience may think, this person that's on the podcast that we're talking to, I hope they have classroom experience, and you definitely do have classroom experience, which we think is very valuable to any of the conversations we have on the podcast. But for the last handful of years, you've been an responsibility-centered discipline coach. You've gotten to kind of share your knowledge and your wisdom and all the things that you have come to know through your successes and your failures about educating kids across the country, maybe further.
Yeah, so Jordan, the last 3 years have been a dream, being a master trainer and implementation specialist for responsibility-centered discipline. I've been able to work with teachers and administrators, now I can say internationally, around the world, fixing what feels like the same problems with behavior, no matter where you are in the country and no matter where you are in the world. I mean, it feels like, last year, Jordan, I was in Honduras. And in Honduras, we were at an international school. And when we asked, what are the things that are driving your teachers the most crazy? wouldn't you know it, they were the exact same things that I was hearing in Fredericksburg, Virginia. They were the exact same things that I was hearing in Florida. They were the exact same things that I was hearing on the West Coast in California.
Problems here are problems there. All education in general is just in the same boat. You're all working together to try and raise up the next generation and teach them, and the same problems are all over the place.
Well, nobody, Jordan, is saying that students' behavior is getting better these days, are they?
True, yeah.
Right? Like nowhere in the world is there an educator that goes, kids these days are so much better than they were when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all there. It's all there for us to challenge ourselves to shift the model of how we're thinking about behavior. And to me, that's the most fulfilling element of what I get to do is when we can shift a mindset just a little bit around what is this behavior really trying to tell us? What's underneath this behavior? And not just from a social emotional learning perspective, because social emotional learning is as valuable as it's going to be. And we're never going to take away from the needs of the whole child. But what is it that is missing within this child that we have the opportunity to be able to reframe for the teacher? And what are the skills that we can grow within that student so that behavior doesn't keep repeating itself?
Yeah. So you're already you've done a fantastic job of just kind of like guiding us into our conversation today around behavior with students, which I love. You want to get into it. You want to talk about it. And we are. And you mentioned a little bit of some of those misconceptions, but let's dig into, as you go around the country, the world, and you're speaking to classrooms, you're in there trying to help teachers and trying to help them, because as established through this podcast and many other places, classroom management isn't exactly a course you take during your education degree at whatever university you are. There may be some now that are starting to come, but it's not, from what I've gathered from talking to you, Joseph, and many others, it's not something that is taught with consistency or with
intention.
It's just not taught a lot. Intention and stuff.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, that's what, this classroom management, the dealing with behavior. Personally, I don't love saying dealing with behavior. I'm not sure what to put in there instead, but managing or, whatever. What do you think, as you've gone around, what are the misconceptions or the misplaced thoughts that you encounter the most as you're talking to educators about challenging behavior in their classroom?
Yeah. Well, maybe we can start by taking almost a 10,000 foot view of what behavior is, right? Like the reality is the teachers in the classrooms are human, and they're dealing with little humans, right? And so when little humans and big humans don't feel like they're themselves for whatever reason, we fall into this place where everything becomes personal. And my first thing to think about when it comes to behavior is the number one thing that I'd like to tell teachers. It's always hard in the moment to hear these words, but teachers have all heard it. Don't take it personal. But how do you do that? And so this is where we're going to zoom in a little bit. How do you not take it personal? Because, for example, if you're a middle school teacher and a kid curses you out to your face in front of the class, how is that not personal? And how can I not take that personally?
Yeah.
What I've discovered, Jordan, is if we are feeling like we're taking it personal, the first thing to identify, that's a red flag within me. Secondly, the question that I like to always ask myself is, what is the story behind this behavior? Because if every behavior tells a story, right? No kid walks into school on a day and decides, the rest of this year, I'm going to be a jerk. Now, teachers might think that that's the case because of some of the behaviors that are coming out.
It definitely feel that way.
It may feel that way for sure. But the question then becomes, if the story of that behavior is when Jordan speaks up when it's not his turn, it drives me, the teacher, crazy. Who did I just make that story about? Myself.
You, the teacher. Yeah.
Me, the teacher. So what if we could reframe the story and say that student is misbehaving because they're missing a skill? Now we've completely eliminated the me part of it, and now I've put myself as the adult, the professional, the teacher into a reflective space that begins to ask what could be missing. And some of the basic skills that we talk about that are missing in school are some of the things that get overlooked the most in our conversations with kids. Okay, for example, and I know we're going to get here in our conversation, Jordan, but every school has those 5 or 6 words that are on the wall that are supposed to be our mantra. They're supposed to be our mission, our vision, our whatever they are, right? Like what?
This is who an eagle is.
This is who an eagle is. E stands for empathy. A stands for accountability. G stands for go get 'em, right? Like,
wow, this is great that you hit all of those so quickly like that. This was not planned. I just threw that out there as a...
L stands for lean in, and E stands for everyone is involved, right?
Yeah.
Teachers love a good acronym. They love a good acronym.
Yeah.
But how many times do those posters on the wall just get stuck on the wall and we never refer to them?
Yeah.
So here's the question that I want to ask teachers. What if those words on the wall were the answer to the question, what skill is this child missing? So for example, Jordan can't get his work done. He seems apathetic. He's distracting students in class, and he is in 5th grade. So rather than thinking, oh my goodness, Jordan is not doing his work again, I'm so frustrated with Jordan. What if I walked up to Jordan with this mindset? Jordan looks like he's not getting his work done. I wonder if he's struggling with accountability today. And I wonder what's underneath that. Now I have a conversation with Jordan about accountability that comes from a place of skill, not a conversation with Jordan that says, get your work done from a place of hurt in my heart.
Yeah. Using those things that are on the wall, those terms, those, it's
Jordan,
who we are
Jordan,
kind of things.
Jordan, I would like to call those foundational skills.
Sure. Gotcha.
If you have them on the wall, why not make them your foundational skills that every conversation around behavior centers back towards?
Yeah. So we said that a lot of schools have those. What about if a school maybe it's not a school-wide thing? What can teachers do to kind of bring what you were just saying into their classroom if that's not something that is at their school? My high school, and last time I was in school as a student, we didn't have anything like that. I think that's a more recent thing of something like that. My daughter's school has things like that, but maybe that's something that doesn't exist. What do those teachers do?
Yeah. So if you're an administrator who's listening to this, I'm going to give you an activity for your next staff meeting. Teachers, if you are listening to this and you want to implement it into your classroom, you can use the same activity at this level. It's a 3-part activity. Number 1, give yourself the freedom and the permission to write down all of the behaviors that absolutely drive you crazy. So if you're an administrator,
Everything.
Give your teachers the space to vent. It drives me crazy when my kids get up out of their seat. It drives me crazy when my kids blurt out in class. It drives me crazy when my kids can't keep their hands to themselves. It drives me crazy the apathy that my kids show. It drives me, and fill up the list until your tank is empty. Let it all out. That's step 1. Step 2 is ask yourself, if every behavior tells a story and I take myself out of the story, what is a skill that this behavior demonstrates is lacking? For example, it drives me crazy when students get up out of their seat. Let's take the me out of there and let's reframe it. When students are up out of their seat, it shows a lack of self-control. It shows a lack of accountability. It shows a lack of perseverance. Those are the skills that we're talking about. And we're talking life skills. and go down your entire list that you vented. We're going to take the you part out of it, and we're going to say, when a student demonstrates this, it shows a lack of this. Once you have your entire list of all the skills that your students are missing, compile them together into the most 4 or 5 most commonly needed skills.
Yeah. Skills, not behavior correction, but skills needed.
No, we are talking about skills needed. And sometimes, like, if it helps to reframe, call those skills character traits, values, life skills, right? Things that you want words like perseverance, respect, integrity, empathy, self-control. These big words that the kids of this generation generally are not getting exposed to outside of your classroom. And once you come up with that list, narrow it down to no more than 5, and then make your classroom poster.
Is that the third step? Is make the classroom poster?
Is make your classroom poster, and then 3A, because there's a 3A. Once you have to make your poster, but we have to define those words so that everyone's on the same page. Because if only the words are on that poster, then the person who reads the words defines the word.
Sure.
There's no common language that describes those words. One of the schools that we worked with, they came up with the most beautiful definition of respect. Like, respect oftentimes is subjective, right? But they came up with this definition of respect. Respect is be kind to myself and others in all I think, do, and say. Be kind to myself and others in all I think, do, and say. And any time that teachers recognized that there was a level of disrespect, whether it was student to student or student to teacher or student to environment, the conversation was not around being disrespectful because it hurt my feelings. It was, the last action that you took, what you just did there, does that match up with how we are respectful at school? Be kind to myself and others in all I think, do, and say. And it became a talking point rather than a correctional opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I really like that step too, which I think might be kind of I don't know, I could see it being difficult. I'll say from my own, dealing with my own kids and my own thoughts, is kind of separating and saying, I feel this way when you do that, which I believe that feelings are valid. If you have a feeling, like, it's a valid, feelings are okay. But changing it to, I can see where if I stay on the feeling side, say, I feel, I feel mad when you just get up without asking. But changing it into that skill of, well, it's a self-control or or communication or whatever it is. That's what's really kind of getting at me. But then it opens it up beyond just correcting the one behavior of getting up when you're not supposed to, right? The self-control leads into being able to do your work or not saying something that you really wanted to say, or because if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. But it takes it from correcting an action to building character. I think I probably just said exactly what you said, but shorter. But
no, what you did, Jordan, was you honed in on why these conversations are as important as they are. Because if anybody in this audience has ever been to therapy or has talked to a counselor, you know this phrase: the problem is not the problem. Right? The behavior itself, it's in that moment. But it's not the big problem, right? When two kids can't keep their hands to themselves and they keep bucking up against each other, the problem isn't that they're bucking up against each other. The problem is neither of them know how to communicate their feelings in a respectful way so that they can have the other person see their perspective.
Right.
And so the coachable moments, when we take the emotion piece out of the conversation, We don't give room for it to be personal. We just become those who are facilitating the growth of the skill that is missing. Like, Jordan, you even said, I love that you said our feelings are valid, because our feelings are always valid. It's who we are and where we are. However, if our conversation with a student is this, when you do that, it makes me feel disrespected. Who did we make it about? Ourselves.
Yeah.
So when you can say those things, you might say, when you did that, it made me feel disrespected, but I'm wondering if there's something else, because this isn't about me. This isn't even about you. This is about something bigger. See, when you said that to me, I want to make sure that I hear your side of the story, but my brain kind of turned off when I felt disrespected. So I'm going to give you another chance to say what you mean to say, and I promise I'm going to be here to listen to your side. If you're ready for that, let me know. I'm all ears. But what you just modeled there, right? You modeled and mirrored respect, and you even acknowledged your feelings, but you didn't make yourself the focus. You didn't make you feeling better the focus. You made it about the skill of the student growing in that moment, the skill of respectful conversation.
Yeah. And I was about to chime in there with the whole modeling, because that's what just happened. And you got there without any prompting, but which is great. Like, my daughter, a few months ago, she was something, I don't know exactly what happened, but she was getting very, she'd respond to us very, not aggressive, but angrily, with unkind tones and things. And I'll say I made it about me for a while there, of like, hey, this is hurting me. Like, what's going on? But I shifted. At one point, I kind of got to a breaking point, and I said, okay, this isn't working. And I said, who talks to you like this? Like, is there someone at school who is talking to you in this way? And at first she said no. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just trying to understand how you've kind of learned, like, there's been a change. And I'm concerned that something's going on at school that we might need to know about. And eventually she told us that there was a girl who gets angry at her about some other situation, and that's how she talks to my daughter. And that just opened up the whole conversation for us to then, we were able to make connections of saying, well, when you talk to us that way, let me start just when this girl at school talks to her, it's like, how does that make you feel? Sad and not respected, like they don't like me. So how do you think mom and dad feel when you talk to us that way? Probably the same way. You're right. And so just shifting that, but us kind of changing our conversation from don't talk that way to, is there someone who talks to you like this? It changed how we were able to kind of get beyond the yelling at mom and dad into the, why is this happening? And so I that's how I can relate to kind of what you're saying about in the classroom, with a teacher talking to the students, of taking it out of me and me, the adult, the grown up, the teacher, whoever that is, and trying to figure out what's going on with that kid to diffuse these moments, or the behavior.
We have in our brain mirroring neurons that respond to the stronger emotion or feeling that is in the room. And when teachers let students' emotions become the mirror, a teacher who reacts to a student's emotions turns themselves in their brain into the same age as that child.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are times where your 4-year-old daughter has said something to you and you said, no, you didn't. You just turned back into a 4-year-old girl, throwing sand at each other in the sandbox. So the skill then becomes recognizing that this problem is not the problem. I am going to become the mirror in this moment. And I'm not going to become the mirror by gritting my teeth. I'm going to become the mirror by using those 4 to 5 words that are on the wall as my anchor and asking myself, which one of these skills is this child missing? And which one of these skills can I model? Can I coach? Can I move towards? Can I even loan some emotional control to this student related to this skill? And that makes our conversations with students so intentional. And I'm not saying don't use your heart. Teachers, don't hear me wrong. Don't get me wrong. All of these conversations come directly from the heart, but they have to come from the heart with this deep level of intention so that our heart can be protected and we don't have those behaviors continue to drive us crazy.
I think what we're going to do, because we've packed a bunch into here this first segment here of all of these different things. So we're going to take a break for a second, but I'm going to give a challenge to our educators. You heard the 3 steps that Joseph kind of said, the 3 things of trying to build what he calls the foundations for your classroom or for your school. During our short little break here, do a little pondering about what are those behaviors that poke you, that push your buttons a little bit. Then take it to the next step of moving yourself out and thinking about the skills. I guess if you have time, you can go ahead and print the poster number 3. But let's focus on those first 2 right now. Take some time while we're in our break real quick to ponder some of those things. And when we come back, Joseph and I will continue our conversation about behavior, challenging moments, building the skills into students. So hang out, listeners, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Let me know if this sounds familiar. You just finished listening to an episode of the Innovative Schools podcast, and you want to hear more from that guest or speaker. Well, you can. At the Innovative Schools Summit. The Innovative Schools Summit is an event that brings internationally recognized thought leaders, educational consultants, teachers, and administrators from all over to come and show you what they've learned. We feature speakers like Michelle Borba, Michael Bonner, Steve Spangler, Gary Brooks, Kim Bearden, and many, many more. You're not going to want to miss this. We hold these summits in the big cities like New York, Las Vegas, Nashville, Orlando, and San Antonio, so there's always one close by. If you want more information, go to theinnovativeschoolsummit.com and check it out. We hope to see you there. Learn from the best in education on Accuit.com. Accuit.com is our subscription-based service that we offer for educators just like you. We have over 40 masterclass-style courses that give you more than 80 hours of training. These courses cover a multitude of subjects like leadership in your school, to climate and culture, to even just classroom management, and so much more. And this training is from the real experts like Bruda Kefele, Michelle Borba, John Almarode, and even Michael Bonner. We release a new course every month, and you'll be able to start applying these strategies as soon as your next day in the classroom. Go to Accuit.com to get started. If you use promo code PODCAST at checkout, you get 10% off your first 6 months. Visit Accuit.com and start learning from the pros today.
Hey everybody, educators, welcome back to the Innovative Schools podcast. We have Joseph Cope, Jordan here with you, talking about behavior in schools and classrooms, just people behavior, honestly. In this line of work, it is specifically students, but as we were talking about before, just like building the skills into students, changing the mindset from how it makes me feel to what is the skill that I can build into that student, which ultimately just creates more, it helps correct behavior beyond the one situation into several situations. You guys had some homework during our little break. I hope you did that. You can do some more later if you need to, but trying to just help you guys get into that mindset of that mindset shift. While you guys were on break doing homework, Joseph and I were talking and doing our own little homework in the break. And where we're going to go into next is, I thought that maybe there's some of our listeners who are listening to all this different stuff and they're saying, yeah, that's great. I still have to teach this stuff in math. I still have to do this stuff in social studies. I have to do this in science. I have I have to plan this. I have to do that. I don't have time. I got 30 kids. This sounds great, but I don't have time to emotionally support all of my kids. And let me tell you what, when Joseph heard me say, I think that's where we need to go, his emotion went through the roof because he hears this a lot. You kind of run into this as you're helping people. You had a nice little soapbox. Can you recreate your soapbox? No.
Well, I don't know if I can recreate it, but I will
Let's
tell
talk
you
about
this, Jordan. I will tell you this. Everybody loves the idea of being connected with your students because nobody gets into education to be a jerk. We all get into education to connect with people and at least make an impact on the future. Yeah. So when something comes in the way, of course it drives us crazy. And then there's all the other variables that are on top, right? I don't have parent support. My administration isn't giving me the help that I need. I've got lesson plans. I'm prepping for 4 periods. I have more students in my class than I know what to do with. How am I supposed to have a conversation with one student when all of these other students can't hold themselves accountable? And now I'm having one conversation. Now there's 6 dumpster fires that take place while I'm having one conversation. What am I going to do around that? And so let's just start by breaking it down because I heard something a long time ago that has helped me a lot, which is this: clarity comes from elimination. And what I mean by that is this: if every student in your class feels like a burden, then you'll never have clarity on who you can target. But if you take a step back and ask yourselves, okay, let's put our students into 3 tiers, okay? Your 60 to 75% of your students are generally quite compliant, right? Like they come to school, they play the game, they know how to do it, and they're succeeding. In most classes across America and around the world, it's between 50 and 80% of your students that are willing to do the work and are happy to be there. And if they're not happy, they put on a smile because they know that that's where they should be. Then you've got your next tier of kids, which is the next maybe 10 to 15%. So we'll call it that group that they're your fence sitters. They're your ones who have the potential to go both ways, right? They're the ones who they do well when you're in class, but oftentimes when there's a sub, they tend to go the other way. Right? Mm-hmm. They might be easily swayed, but they also, you can tell they've got all the potential in the world to be part of the 50 to 80%. And then, real talk, you have your 5 to 8, sometimes 10%, right, of your class. It's usually not more than 1 or 2, and in some years, some tough periods, 3 or 4 students, right, who feel like they suck up the emotional life of the room and they just take it out. And teachers say it all the time. I'm spending so much time on 3 or 4 students. I don't feel like I can give what I need to the rest of the students. And who ends up following in the path is that kind of middle group, right? That other group. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's how we can think about it. Don't bite the whole elephant off in one go. Like you can't eat the whole elephant with one bite. So let's target who it is that we are going to do what I call collecting currency. And when I say collecting currency, I mean, what is it that makes a child tick? If I want students to invest in themselves, I need to spend in a currency that has value to them. Does that make sense?
You got an example? I think I need a little example here.
Absolutely. Let's think about our top tier kids, okay? Those tough kids. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all of them at one time in one conversation. So I'm going to start focusing in on my middle tier of kids. So let's say I've got 3 boys and 2 girls and a class of 26. I've got 3 boys that I've identified and 2 girls who are kind of on that fence sitter group. What I would do is I would try to have conversations with them that are either on the way out of class, on the way into class, and I would have conversation with them about life. Now, here's what's different about the conversations I'm talking about and the conversations we've had in the past. As I'm having my conversations with my students about life, in the back of my mind, I'm listening for where they demonstrate those foundational skills on the wall outside of class.
Okay.
So I find out, oh, Jordan's really into computer games. Okay, so I just lock that in. Okay, so I asked Jordan on Friday, Jordan, what you doing this weekend? And Jordan goes, oh, I can't wait to play whatever game all weekend long. I've got a whole, I've got six or eight of us. We're going to get together and we're going to do this whole gaming thing, and it's going to be all day Saturday. It's going to be amazing. Okay, think about Jordan gaming for 6 to 8 hours. Now, if our words are perseverance, respect, integrity, self-discipline, and empathy, where are the areas in that experience where he's going to demonstrate those? He probably has a level of perseverance because it's something that he enjoys. He's probably going to have to work on some of the respect things when he's saying things back and forth, especially to his team, right? His integrity might be challenged when his mom says, Jordan, it's time to eat, and he says, I don't want to. Right? Like those are things where now he's demonstrating. Okay, so that's Jordan. Now, one of my girls, I found out that she's a competitive dancer. And all weekend long, she's going to be gone at a dance competition. She's traveling 6 hours to be in a 14-hour competition, and she's probably going to come home late Sunday night and be tired Monday morning. That girl, perseverance, respect, integrity, self-discipline, empathy. Where is she showing those things? So I'm listening with a second layer of intentional listening to collect currency.
Yeah.
Collect currency. So then Monday morning comes along and Jordan doesn't want to get his work done. He gets into class and he's like, oh, Mr. Cope, I hate math. I'm not going to do this. Oh, now I might have a conversation with Jordan and I might say something like this. Listen, this whole weekend you spent gaming was the time of your life. You spent 14 hours on one game. I'm wondering if you can conjure up enough perseverance to start with 2 questions. That's all I'm asking. Just give me a start. That's all I'm looking for. And then my little girl, Megan, who's the dancer, she's the one who she's having a hard time. She's having a hard time with another one of her friends. And she ends up being really, really bossy with one of her friends. So you can probably assume she's one of the leaders on the dance team. She has the ability to be a leader. She just needs to figure out how to do it respectfully. And so I have a conversation with Megan and I say, I know that you're one of the leaders on your dance team and you killed it this weekend. Can't wait to hear more about what took place. But in this conversation that's taking place right now, we're wondering what empathy looks like so you can hear their side of the story, because life isn't always a dance competition. Sometimes life is about making sure that we're on the same page so that we're choreographed in the same way.
Nice sneaking in the choreographed word.
You like what I did there? You like what I did there? Currency.
Yeah. That reminds me a lot of something that I heard once, because I feel this is weaved into that, is you can't withdraw from a relationship you haven't invested into. And so while what you're just saying it's not complete, you're listening to what they're having to say to try and see how you can tie it into the skills and things that you want to see them grow in. But I also think simply just talking to them about what's going on in their life, they probably aren't going to pick up that you're categorizing things to pair to that skill, but they say, "Oh, Mr. Cope, like he kind of cares about what I'm doing. This is really interesting. I want to talk to him about it." So when you come to them with that skill building intention of kind of correcting that behavior, changing and helping them grow, they're more likely to take that nudge, that correction, that help, because you've invested into it. So currency on your side of you're getting that currency of what to use, but you're also investing into them so that you can withdraw that later into something that helps them accomplish, what's on your wall or whatever schoolwork or whatever needs to be done.
Listen, if you go into a conversation that has a challenging moment conversation, and you don't have currency invested, you haven't invested in the currency, it's too late and you're going to go into the red. The challenge to teachers is, can you collect currency with the students with whom you have to collect currency? So that when you need to have these conversations and challenging moments, it doesn't feel like you're dipping into the red. It doesn't feel like you're going into debt. You really want to have this moment where you've accumulated enough interest so that you're spending in interest with this student. Listen, interest is a multiple meaning word. You're spending with their interest in mind, and you're spending in the interest of their currency.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit. Most of our situations so far, I feel like, have been what I'm going to kind of classify as somewhat not passive, but not getting the schoolwork. Hey, we need you to get started on your schoolwork, or you're having a little interaction with a friend. Nothing that I would classify as huge, maybe kind of a bit smaller, but I don't think I can leave this conversation without talking a little bit about maybe those bigger moments. Maybe it started small and it's escalated into yelling, cursing across the room, or something like that. When teachers are in those moments, is there a shift in the thinking? There may be some teachers like, I can't just some kids, being belligerent. I don't know if that's quite the right word. They're at least, they're cussing at me. There's some bigger thing, and they're like, okay, I'm not sure, just being like, what is something going on at home? What's hurting you right now? Like, I could see that as being a teachers not, well, they're like, I don't see how these two things work together. But thinking about we've talked about the mirror neurons and pointing back to the things. Let's talk about those big, huge emotion moments that sometimes happen in the classroom or in a school.
Yeah. Okay. So let's think about it. Let this one, we're going to go from the moment in, and then we're going to take our way out to 10,000 feet.
Okay.
In the moment, if a student becomes belligerent, becomes loud, the indicator in that moment within their brain is that they don't feel safe. Okay, so just remember that. Listen, brain scientists, neuroscientists out there will tell you that when the amygdala kicks off, safety, security is the number one priority. And when security is the number one priority, control becomes the key variable in that moment.
Yeah. So I just want to pause for 1 second, just because I was thinking about this, is as we're walking through what you're describing, I just want to kind of press in and challenge our listeners to think about maybe a moment, maybe it's not your most dignified moment, but a moment that you've been in that place. You have a big emotion, and try and think and relate of Joseph just said that, security and control. The moments that you've been in a spot of big emotion, concern, maybe kind of acting like these moments we're talking about, maybe not in the school, but somewhere else. Think about for yourself as we kind of walk through this, what you've thought and how you've felt to validate kind of what you're saying, Joseph, of in those moments I've gotten really angry or I've gotten really scared. What has it caused me to do? That's just, I want to encourage a certain amount of self-reflection as we talk about these bigger moments. So, sorry, please continue, because it's great, but I don't know, I just felt like it's important for us to think that, not be thinking on the outside, but be active and walking through how people feel in these bigger emotional, challenging moments. So,
yeah.
sorry.
And Jordan, thank you for jumping in on that, because nobody's listening to this podcast just to get information, right? Yeah. You're listening to this podcast because you are investing the time to find out, what can I do differently? Mm-hmm. And this comes back to something that we said at the very beginning, which is we're not trained as teachers to deal with these big moments, right? Teachers wear the hats, the psychologist, the therapist, the mom, the dad, the nurse, and so in these big challenging moments, the few things that we can remember, number one is this behavior is telling a story. And in those big belligerent behaviors, if we can remember this is about safety and security for them, if we fall into the trap of the mirroring with them, then we fall into the safety and security. And now you've got two humans who are both in a safety and security space. Okay?
Yeah.
So now we're going to take a step back. What are some of the preventative pieces that we can put in place so those belligerent behaviors become further and further apart and fewer so that we can create an environment and a culture where that safety and security doesn't feel like it's as much of an issue. Some of our teachers out there will know that there are certain kids who they don't have as many behavior issues in your class because of a relationship that you've built with them. And those same teachers will also say, yeah, there were some years where there was a kid who, it was just too much. So let's take a step back and ask, what are some of the things that we can do to create? One big challenge with teachers is we're so heart-driven. We are so heart-driven. We want to make an impact, so these kids get onto our heart. But what we forget is that if we don't approach behavior from a place of skill, then you've just turned yourself into another parent.
Yeah.
And how many students do you have on your roster? It is biologically impossible for your heart to have enough room for all of the kids. So you can't. Eventually, that's why you say things like, I can't do this anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't with Jordan anymore, because your heart has taken too much. So here's the step out. Approach behavior culturally, like the culture of the behavior management, the culture of the skill growth as a skill that you are growing. So we've talked about ways to implement this skill today on the podcast. 1, don't make it about yourself, make it about the skill on the wall. 2, give yourself a chance to take a breath and recognize where you are in this moment. 3, have the conversation about the skill. That gives you a chance to talk about the skill, not the behavior, because the problem isn't the problem. It's something that's underneath it. And in a framework that I like to coach, that I coach around the country, it's a conversation that we call a Give 'em 5 conversation. And it's a structured conversation that gives teachers an ability to reflect when conversations go poorly. And I'm not talking like big conversations, those big behaviors are going to happen. But in a conversation that's called a Give 'em 5 conversation, we're just asking, we're giving some sort of statement or idea of support. And the spirit of support is, I'm here for you, I'm not against you.
Right.
The expectation, it's about the skill on the wall. It's not about a rule. We have to identify the breakdown. The breakdown becomes the behavior that we have. Then we've got the benefit to the student. That's the currency that we're spending in so that we can get to closure. Now, those 5 pieces, let me tell a story, okay?
Sure.
Do we have time for a story, Jordan?
Absolutely. We always have times for good stories.
This is a story that I get to share on stage oftentimes, but one year I got a knock on the door in October, and this girl gets introduced to my class. First day, she's got blue hair. She is like one of those outside the box kids, and I found out from the counselor that it was her second foster placement. And it was a tough kid. So when she went, she was the kind of kid who when she got escalated, she got escalated. The hardest time of the day for her was during lunch hour in a middle school cafeteria at a Title I school with 100% free and reduced lunch. You can imagine the chaos, and I taught her right after lunch. So one day she walks in and she is full of profanities coming in. I won't say them on the air, but she comes in and she goes, Mr. Cope, I ain't doing today. I'm not doing my effing work. One of those B's in there is going to get their A whooped after school today. Okay, so now I want you to think about the spirit of the conversation that I had with her. Okay, think about big behavior coming into the class.
Real
now.
big.
It's right after
real
lunch.
Quick, real big tsunami.
And all of a
Huge.
sudden, now I've got a choice. I can say, get yourself out of the classroom, go get yourself together and come back when you're ready. I could. Or I could totally ignore it and hope it goes away.
Mhm.
Or I walked up to her and at this level, I said, hey, I got a question for you, number one. Is it an adult thing or is it a kid thing? Because I'm going to go about this totally differently. And she goes, it's those bees in there. They just keep getting on my case. I can't handle it anymore. And I said, so I'm going to assume that it's a child, right? She goes, yes. And I said, oh, what's it going to take for you to be the best version of you? Because the lesson plan that I created today is a writing plan that has you at the center. I thought about you as I was creating this, but you're not going to be able to be a part of that for yourself if you're not your best self. So I'm asking, what's it going to take for you to be the best version of yourself? And my voice got lower. And she looks at me and she goes, why the hell are you whispering to me? Can you see her mirroring neurons kick in?
Yeah.
She kicked in. And then I said, because it's all about you. It's just about you. So I'm going to ask one more time, what does it take for you to be the best version of you when you come into this class? And she goes, 3 minutes. And she power whispers 3 minutes. Now, can you see the mirroring neurons kick in? But in that moment, it was, take yourself out of this, Joseph. This is not about you. This is about her. Hence the question, is this about an adult or a kid? Because I'm going to go about this totally different. Put my brain in the space of, I'm going to engage in a skill, not from my heart. This isn't personal. This isn't with me. It's about something that happened, and I'm going to identify the skill that took place. And then by whispering, I offered support. By bringing my level down, I modeled respect. I had to identify some of the breakdown that was in her, but the currency that I spent was in, this writing is all about you, and if you're going to be your best version, you're going to get a chance to participate in this. And then she gave me closure when she whispered back, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
In that moment, it became more about the skill that was being engaged in than my heart getting crushed because one of my favorite students was taking something out on me.
How far into your career was that conversation in your education career? Do you remember?
About 13 years in.
Yeah. I was really hoping it was going to be later in. How many failed conversations do you think you had before?
Jordan, my first week teaching 4th grade, at Crosby Elementary in Garden Grove, California. Shout out, Cougars. A student in my class, under his breath, after I asked him to do something, under his breath, first week, says F you under his breath to me. And my response was not, well, it seems like you're having a tough day. What else could it be? My first response was, did you have something to say to me? Did you want to say that out loud? Like, that was the story of all of the failures that I had. But what I started to realize was every time that I reacted to their mirroring neurons, my energy levels drained so quickly, and it took so long for me to get back into being the best version of me that eventually I stopped. I just let, rule of thumb was, if they're emotional, the first 2 or 3 things that come out of their mouth don't affect me.
I bring that up just to, I think anything that I enter into, listen to or read or watch, that's like, hey, here's how to, like, especially with people, like, here's a way that you can kind of work these situations or help or grow, or, this is what you need to change about you, whatever is, I come out of it with a really high expectation and motivation of saying, oh, I can make all these changes right away. But I knew, I played you a little bit. I knew that the conversation with a girl was later in your career, and just as an encouragement that in the same way that it takes time for students to build the skills that we're trying to build into them, us adults and educators, it takes time for us too. So just as an encouragement to all of our educators listening, if you've listened to this podcast and you're like, these are some really good things and I want to work these into what I'm doing, and you're 8 minutes in and you fall on your face, it's okay. Let's get back up and try one more time. It takes time. It's a skill for us adults as well to be able to remove ourselves, to not just mirror back, you got something you want to say to me, son? But to work into, it's a progression, it's a progress into being able to build skills into students. And so, I don't know, I wanted to bring some down to earth, some realism that, as much as I admire you, Joseph, and know your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience, is you can be on chapter 85 of working through this, and there can be some that are on chapter 5, and we shouldn't be comparing our chapters. But part of this podcast is to just help everyone grow in whatever little bit it can be. I think about weightlifting. I never lifted weights, but I understand, you're not going to go out there and lift, I don't know what it'd be. I never did any, I picked a bad analogy for me personally, but you're going to bench press some massive amount of weight. I don't know what it would be. You're not going to do that the first day, but you'll work your way up to it. And so, just a touch of encouragement.
And I'm going to add on to that encouragement, Jordan, because there are literally millions of books out there that will tell you how to get better at something, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just within the education space, right? That's just there, right? But there is a difference between acknowledging a skill and becoming skilled.
Right.
And the difference between inspiration and acquisition is the amount of times that you practice. Mm-hmm. But how you practice makes a difference. Because if you practice and failure becomes something that you accept as, I can't do it anymore, right? Like, we tell our kids to have a growth mindset. We have kids, but how many times do we as teachers struggle in a growth mindset when it comes to our own skill acquisition, especially around this? I said this little line to a friend of mine the other day, and I it's one of those ones where I kind of surprise myself. Like, you say something, you're like, "Oh, that was good," and so she texted. Like, "Oh," but I have it written down to remind myself, which is, I'm looking at it right now, which is how you speak your mind will determine your next state of mind. How you speak your mind will determine your next state of mind. And it's that gentle reminder that it's the practice of pause, the practice of remove myself from this, the practice of identify the skill that the kid is missing, identify, and then practicing within myself, can I speak about that skill? And the first 60 times that I fail, practicing to go back and reflect and saying, was I really for the kid, not against them? Yeah. Was I actually focused on the skill, or was I still feeling hurt? Did I point out the behavior that they were missing? Did I spend in their currency, or was I spending in my currency? Those are 4 great reflective questions that we can ask when we have our fail moments, right? Fail, some of you are going to roll your eyes out there, but failing is the first, what is it? Fail is an acronym. First.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know this. First. Oh my goodness! Now I'm on the spot.
Whatever
it is, it sounds like you're failing at the acronym.
Oh, no, I didn't. I did not fall. I did not fall to that failure. It's first attempt in learning.
Ah, okay.
First attempt in learning.
I had not heard this.
Yeah,
but I like it.
Fail is your first attempt in learning.
I do like it, Joseph. Listen. You bring so much to these conversations. I mean, it's really about you. I'm just here to, I don't know, for you to look at while you talk, because you don't really need me. But I loved this conversation. I loved just getting to hear some of the stories that you have accumulated over the years, your failures and the successes, and your passion for trying to share that with our education community to help them just continue going, because education's hard. It's difficult. And every little bit of support is welcome. And so I thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this and all that stuff. It's been delightful. It's been wonderful.
Jordan, it's always a pleasure coming on. So that you make conversation easy, and you're significantly more than someone to look at. So the conversations that we have together, really, we want teachers to be in the best place that they can be to support the kids that we know need the most help. And teachers are struggling out there. Teachers are really struggling. So if today resonated with you, I'm glad that it did, because our heart is for you. And administrators, when you're out there, our heart is for you to support your teachers as well. So Jordan, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joseph. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. I know Joseph already said it, but if this resonated with you, we're really thankful for that. And I encourage you to share it with someone else who you think it might resonate with as well. We say it all the time on the podcast. We're not here to just try and make this big podcast with lots of people listening or anything. We truly just want to help educators. And we can't help more educators without your help. So this is the small little plug to ask you to follow and like, subscribe, whatever you do, share it so that we can help and support more educators. So we thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. And one last time, thank you, Joseph, for joining us.